This week we're going to be studying reference systems, and I wanted to give you a little bit of an introduction and show you reference systems on some different topographic maps for reference. So we're going to be looking at State Plains Coordinate System, Universal Transverse Mercator, or UTM, and Township and Range. And then we'll take a look also a little bit at other land partitioning systems like meets and bounds and French long lot. But for right now, let's just take a look at two different maps. On the right here, this is San Bernardino Quadrangle from 1954. And over here, we have Tucson, Arizona from 2009. So two very different looking types of map. As you can see, this one's got the aerial photo underneath it. This one does not. But let's see if we can spot each of our reference systems. You've already worked with latitude and longitude. So let's first look for UTM. And if you look around the outside of the maps, and you'll be doing this in your lab, there's a series of different types of numbers, and then they're referencing different grid systems or different reference systems. So State Plains is always in feet, so that's one of the hints you can look for, is to look for a numeric number that says feet. And as I scan along the top with my finger, I see one right there, and it says 2,220,000 feet. And over here I see another one, 1,630,000 feet. So those are the only two marks on the map that are referencing State Plains. And when you watch the Articulate video on State Plains, you'll learn a little bit more what those numbers mean. But those are our easting values, our numbers that are referencing east-west. And then along the side, 750,000 feet, these are northing values, 200,000 feet. And it has a little tick that's extending outside the map. So we reference any point on the map, like if we're up over here, it would be State Plains Coordinate System. You always do your eastings first, and then your northings. We deal with reference systems as right, then up. You read them that way for any reference system. So this value right here where my finger's at is easting of 1,630,000 feet and 750,000 feet for the northing. So east, then north. So you can also spot it over here on the the Tucson Topo Quad. There's 1,020,000 feet. And that looks like the only one we get referenced. On the northing, scan down, there's a 420,000 feet right there. So we could use that along with the foot or the miles scale bar and locate positions. You get to do it easier with the GeoPDF, which is kind of fun. So that's State Plains. UTM, or Universal Transverse Mercator, is based on large north-south strips that cover the whole Earth, and we'll look at this a little more later. And so you measure the northing from the equator, actually, which is kind of cool, and the easting within each of those zones. UTM on the map here is in meters, and so if I point right up here, it's showing 3,789,000 meters north of the equator, right there just north of San Bernardino. And then the easting value are right here. What is that? 455,000 meters east of, and we measured this within a UTM zone. 500,000 is the central meridian of the zone. So that's our reference point. So that point is to the east of the central meridian within the zone. And that's how we figure out where we're located. And on this map, it looks like the grid that we're seeing, the red grid, is not associated with UTM. It's actually referencing township and range. So on the Tucson topo map, UTM is referenced by the yellow grid here. And each one of these grid squares is 1,000 meters square, both east, west, and north, south. And so you can see how it overlays the entire map. This map does not have a reference for the township and range system. And as you might know, the township and range is how we locate property. And within property deeds, we reference the township and range location as the official property deed. This map over here does label the township and range, and it's these red grids with the numbers here. And you can spot it that you can see the numbers going up, 22, 23, 24, and then 19, 20, 21, that you can find different grids. But the interesting thing with township and range, which is kind of fun, is anywhere in the western United States, we live in the grid, is what I like to call it. And you can spot it in the actual landscape and on topo maps. So on this map, you can see the red squares actually line up with the road system. And when we get out here into the farm fields, you can actually see that this grid number 3, that's a congressional township. That's 36 miles square. And it's deeded to somebody just like that. And then we break down each of the little pieces by the grid. You can somewhat spot the grid on the Tucson map, even though township and range isn't labeled, by the streets themselves, that the streets reference the township and range system. So if we go over here, this is Broadway Boulevard, and we go up to here, there's Speedway Boulevard. In between these is 1 mile square. And then you can go and do the other one. So if it's 1 mile, we go, so it's 2.5 inches. We go down here, 2.5 inches is, oops, right there, is 1 mile, right there, or right here, let's do it here. 2.5 inches is just a little less than a mile. So that's where your grid is. You can spot it east to west, right here to here, and you can see how Reed Park itself is 1 congressional township. And interesting to note the difference between Tucson and Phoenix, that we like to say we're more liberal in Tucson and they're a little more right-leaning in Phoenix, right? Well, surveyors have a joke that says this Tucson street grid actually leans to the left, where the Phoenix street grid leans to the right. And so it also references the politics.